So we're going to hear about Alex's journey, where she started off as being someone who was going to the Olympics for rugby. She transitioned into being a fitness model, and then she was able to transition that into being an OnlyFans model. And now she's in the top 1% in the entire world for all of the OnlyFans models on this planet. This conversation really goes all over the spectrum. We're able to discuss her journey, how she was able to go through dealing with her family, where they have been nothing but loving and supporting throughout this process. And we're going to hear about how she was able to transition, finding whether this was the right decision for her to go down this way. We're going to also hear about how she's been able to create a business from her OnlyFans and how she was able to build her brand. And I think a lot of people have negative stigmas when it comes to OnlyFans. And I think that this story and this podcast will shed a lot of light onto the reasons why this is someone just following their passion, following their dreams. And not only that, but giving love and attention to a lot of people out there who could really use the love and attention. So if you want to learn a little bit more about OnlyFans today, if you want to hear about an amazing individual that really just wants to share her story and help those around her, then please tune in. You're going to really enjoy this episode. Thank you. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Joe Naz podcast. Today we have one of my favorite and most beautiful and most gorgeous friends on the planet here with us, Miss Alex K. Alex, thank you so much for coming here today to this podcast. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, I'm really stoked about this. I've been wanting to have this conversation with you for a while. And even when we hang out, sometimes I make it a point not to ask you specific things because I wanted to have this conversation here. So if you don't know Alex K is someone who was a nurse in her past life. She was a fitness model in her past life and is now one of the most famous OnlyFans models, is the proper term, on the planet. And at this point, I've been able to see her go through her journey over the last couple of years, because we've been friends for the better part of at least half a decade, probably longer than that. And so we've both have gone through a long journey together. I think she knew me when I was just this baby attorney figuring shit the fuck out. And now I knew her when this was not even on her horizon many moons ago. And so we've gone through this large transformation, and now we're both like in positions where we're thriving doing what we're doing. And it's interesting to watch us go through that journey. And I'm just so proud of you.
Oh my gosh, you said that so well. I'm so proud of you too, because you're right. I feel like we've come so far from just being like kids and beginners in our industry and figuring things out, playing around, and now here we are with our adult jobs, our adult lives. It's been so much fun to watch you grow and evolve too. And with this podcast, I'm so stoked. I've gotten some offers to be on podcasts that are more like, larger companies and things like that. But when you asked me, like sitting here talking with a friend today, it just seems like a lot of fun. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Honestly, this podcast has been a lot of fun. And that's like a big part of this project. It's just like getting together, hanging out, talking about things that have been going on in our lives, and just kind of seeing, if our journey can help other people that are listening in. And I think that having these conversations and discussing how we went from, figuring out how we're going to pay our bills and like going literally month to month, like how am I going to survive? How am I going to figure this the fuck out? And then being in a position where we're not, looking at our bank accounts anymore, where we're freaking out. And don't get me wrong, there's always still things to grow and there's always things that we want and we're always trying to accomplish more. But it's nice to be in a position where we can look at things big picture and see things from like an aerial view when we were just so trying to survive month to month.
If our younger selves saw us right now, I was thinking about that when I was driving here. I was like, wow, looking back like 6 years, if I would have known that Joe would have asked me to be on his podcast, I would have been so excited, like so honored. Like, why would he pick me,
Yeah.
And now here we are.
And here we are. Yeah. So the conversation of topic today is we're going to be talking about how you ended up getting to your position today. And the reason I'm excited to have you on here, and the reason I also wanted to have this conversation, I think a lot of people have bad stigmas when it comes to OnlyFans or to people that are doing OnlyFans. But the way I see it and the way that I've always like watched the individuals that have grown this is you are essentially creating an entire business and a brand based off of who you are, your looks, your personality, and everything that you do in your life. And I thought it was extremely impressive because it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. And there is, I do get asked this sometimes, especially because I'm a really spiritual person. People ask me like, you're so spiritual. I'm surprised you do OnlyFans. And the answer to that is a lot more extensive than what I can just like answer on the fly. So I'm super excited to explain it today. But it really is part of my path and part of my journey. And it's very freeing. You know what I mean? We look at all these rules that we have on our life, and I question why do we have to behave this way? Why do we have to behave that way? Like, whose best interest is in mind by following these rules and doing the things that we're quote unquote supposed to do? You know, go to school, get a degree in something, go work that job. Like, whose best interest at the end of the day is that? And you know, a big part of it for me, I used to be a realtor. And so I was chasing money all the time. And I had a big revelation moment where I was like, the thought of helping people started to really get to me. Real life, real connections, like just the realness of that, not this fake, you know, making money, going to bottle service tables, things like that. It actually happened to me at a music festival. I went to the music festival to network. I had my real estate business cards in my pocket. And when I got out there to network, this was in the middle of the desert. It was not what I was expecting at all. This music festival was not driven by money. It was very much like a health and wellness festival. And when I got there with the business cards in my pocket and I looked around and I saw how real these people were being with one another and like how much connection they had, how much love they had for each other, how they looked each other in the eyes when they were speaking to each other. And I felt so fake for having these business cards in my pocket. I went there with the intention of like trying to be there to work, to be there to network. I threw them on the ground and I just started to have these real connections. And that's when I realized I wanted to change paths. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. It ended up being nursing. Got into nursing. I was really driven by helping people and I was so glad I was doing it. But when I got into it, again, I started to feel that corporate structure and really started to just eat at me.
Yeah.
And that whole process, again, I feel like I fell into
Yeah.
what it was I was going away from the first time, is like, oh man, now I'm back in this environment, this structure that just doesn't feel right. I want to
Yeah.
help people, but
Yeah.
doing that, it was hurting my soul.
Yeah. And, you know, making a comment about what you said when it comes to structure within like nursing. So I've had the pleasure of dating several nurses in my life and I've become very familiar to what you guys have to deal with. And also being a personal injury attorney, I'm dealing with doctors and talking to doctors all the time. And so in my world, we either have people treat on a lien basis or we have them treat through medical insurance. And when I've seen people, which is the majority of everyone, they're using medical insurance. A lot of these doctors, in my opinion, they're treating the symptoms and they're not treating the patient. They're not sending them to go to chiropractic to get physical therapy, and maybe even realizing on a deeper level that those lifestyle changes are probably psychiatric issues and they might need to speak to a therapist to make those life changes. And so you're absolutely right. It's like it's very structured. It's meant to do it things a very specific way. And a lot of times it's always pushed by how do we make the most money and not how do we help people in the most efficient way.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I knew that's how a lot of that industry was, but seeing it firsthand, it just was making me want to crawl out of my skin because I saw people getting sicker. Realizing what I had just signed up for was a license to hand people medication. It was just literally taking the medication from one, giving it to the other. And that is when I realized it wasn't right for me. So I was looking at maybe nurse practitioner school, you know, what's a way that I can go beyond and really get to like the root of these problems. And in the meantime, I had been doing fitness stuff. I had been doing a lot of health stuff. And that's what I was passionate about, was like my side hustle at that point I looked more forward to. So on the weekends, I was doing photo shoots, fitness, all that kind of stuff. And that started to really grow. And it stemmed from the fitness stuff at first. And then it started to get into more like bikini lingerie, because then I started to get paid for it when I was doing those things.
Yeah.
And then I started to meet girls that were doing that. And the environment, it was so like happy and free. And it was more of a hobby. I wasn't really getting paid at first. It was just a hobby. It was a hobby I was doing for so many years, but it was because I enjoyed doing it. It wasn't, you know, I'd rather on the weekend, instead of going to the movies or watching TV, like I wanted to go do photo shoots and I wanted to go to the gym.
Yeah.
And so it was just really fun for me. It just naturally fell into that. And then I was at a photo shoot and there was a manager there who said that he was going to start an OnlyFans house. And I was like, an OnlyFans house? He asked if I wanted to join. I was like, I don't have an OnlyFans. And I was like, I work as a nurse, so I can't have one. And he's like, well, who says you can't have one? And I really thought about it. And I was like, you know, I really want to start living for me. Like, I know I'm not supposed to be a nurse and have an OnlyFans, but like, if that's not okay, I don't want to keep doing the things that other people are telling me to do to keep pleasing them, because in that environment, I'm not going to ever be happy.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, I'm just going to start being me. And if that's not okay for some people, then they're naturally going to phase out and I'm going to fall into the path of being surrounded by people who do accept me for what I actually love. Because in that case, I'm going to find the best friends. I'm going to find the best, environments. And I told my parents that I wanted to do OnlyFans, and they were actually not, they're like, you're an adult, you have a degree, you're not desperate. Like, if this is what your heart is calling to do, like, go for
Yeah.
it. And then I was nervous about my friends.
Yeah, I mean that's funny that your parents said.
Yeah.
If my sister came and my parents said I was doing OnlyFans, they would say they would probably cut off her legs and feed them to her in like a very kind way. And two, like I know a lot of the stuff that we're saying about like nurses, like it's nothing against being a nurse. They are a beautiful profession and they help so many people and they're definitely something that's necessary. But it's just for you, it just wasn't your calling and it was something that you were ready to go in a different direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess when you were doing like the fitness modeling and the bikini modeling and all that, is that like is that very different than from even doing OnlyFans or doing the modeling that you do from OnlyFans, or was it just in the same line of work almost?
So it ended up being in the same line of work. So I just was getting closer to the idea of doing things nude. And at that point,
Yeah.
I still had not even doing OnlyFans. I wasn't even at that point of I might do nude. It was more like I'm going to start doing more videos, more personally talking to people on that platform, that kind of stuff. And I'm going to announce that I'm doing it. So a lot of people are going to assume a lot of things. There's
Yeah.
going to be a lot of talk. So that's why I had to tell my family. And I was raised with a lot of love. I'm super close to my parents. So I was nervous about what they would say, but they surprisingly were just kind of like, whatever makes you happy. And then secondly, I was worried about what my friends would think.
Yeah.
So I broke the news to a few close friends and they were like, after speaking with them, I was more inspired to do it because they were like, go follow your heart, And then after joining this content house for a few weeks, we had a 4th of July party and you were there and a lot of our friends were there. And I was so nervous to show up at that party because I was like, this is the first time I'm going to see my friends since I've been announcing all over
Yeah.
social media. I'm on OnlyFans. Like, what if I walk in and the girls don't
Yeah.
want to talk to me? What if I walk in and like people are whispering like,
Yeah.
oh, she's here, she's on OnlyFans. Like, who knows? And I walked in and everyone was so cool about it. They had a ton of questions. They were so like
Yeah.
motivating. They like, that's when I realized we just have the best friends because they, at the end of the day, there's no jealousy there.
Yeah.
There's no like, I was so excited at that point. And that was
Yeah.
kind of the turning point for me because I felt all this support. Like,
Yeah.
okay, people at the end of the day, they just want each other to be happy.
Yeah.
Of course, you have, unfortunately, some people out there who, they're self-conscious or some of the things will reflect back and you can see that. And it's also outside of a lot of people's beliefs for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
But I realized my close surrounding, it's very much within everybody's beliefs to just
Yeah.
be free and be you. So then I
Yeah.
just started hitting it hard. And that moment that I stopped caring about what people think and what I was supposed to do,
Yeah.
my life just totally changed.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine there's all kinds of different emotions that people could feel with you, right? Like
Yeah.
one is like, an emotion that comes up for me is like my own lack of freedom because you're literally expressing yourself in the most vulnerable way, right? And you're putting it all out there for lack of a better term. And so that almost like reflects to someone else where they're not able to do that on their own, right? And their own insecurities in that. And definitely when you even talk about cultural things, like me being in Middle Eastern culture, I don't think that 99% of the girls in my culture would really be allowed to do this. They would get like disowned. Their family would not speak to them. Their friends would not speak to them. So that's something that definitely could happen there too. And so it's definitely brave in the way that you went out there. I know for me, when I saw that you started doing that, I was just super intrigued and interested behind it because you had also called me about like some legal issue that we discussed about in the past too. And so that's when like I started like seeing like the business side of it and just really seeing like how this was literally creating a brand and a business out of who you were. And I know today you've had a lot of success with it, but even before you were doing OnlyFans, you had built your Instagram, which was just fitness modeling. And that is not an easy thing to do. I think you had almost like 100,000 followers before you started going down this road. And just building up any account to 100,000 followers is a difficult task in itself. So you already had that business mindset and you were using it as a tool and then just helping to build your personal brand.
Yeah. And you're right. I was obsessed with fitness and shooting and health. And I feel like to be good at something like this, for anybody to have their own business and be really good at it, they have to be obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part. It's like I'm even at night when I could be doing something in my free time, I love to check it because I love to see what's going on. I love to analyze things. I love numbers. I love all of that. So I've been obsessed with it since the beginning for sure.
Gotcha. And then for like fitness and that stuff, were you ever a fitness trainer, or you just always been like just in really amazing shape, or like that's just been a passion of yours?
Yeah, it's mainly been a passion. I mean, I played a lot of sports. I played rugby for 7 years.
You played rugby?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You didn't
You were
know
knocking
that?
fools out?
Oh,
I had
that
no
is
goddamn
funny.
idea. That's funny. Yeah.
So I started playing rugby when I was 12.
You were playing rugby. That's amazing. That's
I
fucking great.
started
That
playing-
explains a lot.
I started when I was 12 because when I was in middle school and I was playing football with the boys, they started to get ready for high school football. So I asked the high school football coach, I'm like, you don't have any girls on your team. Can I be the first one? And he's like, well, you could, but you're just not going to be built like the boys when you get older. And I was like, what do you mean? You know, I didn't understand.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just as good as them.
Yeah.
We're 12.
Yeah.
And so my mom's friend was a rugby coach, but she was coaching college girls in Fullerton. So she's like, you can come play with me. They're also girls, but you'll be really fast because you've been playing soccer. You can kick, so you'll have advantages, but you're not going to be as big as them right now. And so when the boys went to do their college football, I went and played rugby instead.
Gotcha. Do you have brothers?
No.
Got it. So how the heck did you get into these sports? You just
don't know.
naturally wanted to go
I
play
was
violent
always,
sports.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
always a daddy's girl, and my dad was really good at soccer. So
Okay.
that's why I started playing soccer young. And
Yeah.
then when I was playing soccer with my friends, a lot of them were boys. They were playing football, so I wanted to get into that. And then I became competitive, and I just wanted to keep up. But since I started playing so young with bigger girls, when I was 18, I did something called a drop kick in the middle of a game, which is very rare in the middle of the game because you have to drop the ball on its nose. It has to hit the ground that way and bounce up before you can kick it with your foot.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot about timing it right. And I was like 40 meters away from the post. So I was far. It was the last play of the game, and it was for the Nationals, so the best team in California. So I made that drop kick through the post. It was the longest drop kick recorded for any woman in our age group. It was under 19. So longest drop kick by anyone under 19.
Nice.
So we went to nationals. The national coach flew out to talk to me. He's like, rugby is going to be in the 2016 Olympics for the first time. And I am right now drafting the girls from all around. He was out there for the nationals. He's like, I'd love for you to come train with us for the 2016 Olympics. And
Oh my
I
God.
was just like, so blown away. We had one more tournament after that, and in that tournament, I tackled a girl that was probably like 250 pounds, and she was running really slow because she couldn't run very
It's a
fast,
big
but she
girl.
was strong. When I went to tackle her, she didn't fall the same way as I'm used to because she was running at such a slow pace and went right on top of me, and my shoulders almost touched each other. So I broke my collarbone in 4 pieces. And I couldn't go train for the 2016 Olympics.
My God, I had
Yeah.
no idea about any of this. I don't think any of our friends know this.
No, I don't really. It
this
doesn't
is
come
why-
up much.
No, this
It's
doesn't
such a
come up.
random fact.
Dude, but that's amazing. I didn't know that
Yeah.
you were such an amazing athlete. I mean, it's no joke to be asked to go play the Olympics for any sport.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that you had, first of all, played rugby, but any sport, and you had that kind of dedication. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Fuck
thank
yeah,
you.
that's
So
sick.
after that, I was kind of
Yeah.
just confined to the gym. So I was like, all right, well,
Yeah.
now the gym's going to be my thing. I'm going to get
Yeah.
really good at it.
Got it. So you basically were taking the passion that you had for sports,
Mm-hmm.
and then you translated into just working out at the gym.
Yeah.
And you were able to use that motivation and dedication basically in another way.
Yep.
How cool. Dude, that's so wild. Did you love rugby? Did you love hitting
Oh
people?
my gosh, I loved it so
Okay,
much.
good.
Like it after my collarbone healed, it was too late for me to go train with them. I started doing a little bit of MMA because I realized jiu-jitsu is very similar in the way where like the human body, the way it moves, and like, you know,
Yeah.
being able to predict the opponent's like first movement, all that. That's where like my passion is. I have so much fun with that.
Do you still do jiu-jitsu?
No, I would love to. There's
Okay.
definitely, it's such an art form because when you do it properly, you never get injured. There's a way to fall. Like if I trip and fall today, I will not hurt myself because it's like I can just fall and roll back up onto my feet. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's not like an issue. And I feel like when you are connected to your body in such a way and how it works,
Yeah.
you don't get injured as much. So
Gotcha. And then are you not doing jujitsu because you're worried about messing up your pretty face? Is that
exactly.
essentially what it is? Okay, got it. Just clarifying. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's interesting. I definitely think when it comes to like getting physical with other human beings, this is a basic human need. And I think that, that's a big thing that as we've developed as individuals, we all stay in these little boxes. We don't connect with other people. And it's important to like wrestle or just play around with other people and to get
Yeah.
physical in that sense. And so yeah, the couple times that I've like done jujitsu, but I still play soccer. So that's like where I get like, my physical stuff, but jujitsu and specifically like wrestling and stuff like that, it is an art form because I wrestled when I was younger too. And yeah, it's just you against another person. It's a chess match. And you're basically able to put each other toe to toe and you're trying to take each other down. But also, I just remember after all those matches, you never feel more alive than when you're literally going up against physically another person.
Yes.
So I can imagine. So I did lacrosse. We never talked about that.
Oh, I didn't know
So
that.
yeah, so I was very little because when I wrestled, I was 130 pounds. For a dude, that's really small. So like I'm 165, like normal now, and I wasn't much taller or shorter back then, but I was like 35 pounds lighter. And so when I played lacrosse, I would get hit pretty hard, but you're basically tackling each other with no pads, and it's a completely different sport. I never had the opportunity to play. Yeah.
It's, I mean, I could imagine lacrosse too. There is, even though there's a lot of that contact, there's such a level of respect there for
Yeah.
like the opposing teammates too. Like they don't always show it on camera when you're watching a game, but a lot of times if you tackle someone and you're both on the ground, the ball moves down the field, like you help each other up. You know,
Yeah.
it's like such a bonding experience
Yeah.
too. I think lacrosse is similar in that way where they're pretty respectful
Yeah.
of each other too.
Except you get a metal stick to hit people with. So there's that. But yeah, that was a fun sport. So wild. Yeah, thank you for sharing that part of the story. And so this helped you to develop into your discipline and why you're so fit. And because this was just something that naturally you enjoyed. It's funny too when so like I've been working out like quite consistently recently, but for me this was like a shift. Like I was always kind of inconsistent with it before. And it's funny because when I hear you, it's something that you're passionate about. It's something you love to do. It's something that you enjoy, right? And so like I was like asking myself the question like a couple months ago when I was going to the gym, I was like, why am I even going to the gym? I'm doing it really to impress other people so I look good for other human beings. I'm not even doing this for myself to be like healthy and to be in shape. It's like why like what is the purpose of why I'm even like going down this road? And once I was able to make the shift that no, this is just for me to live a healthy lifestyle because I feel good when I'm healthy. This is for myself. And once I made it about me and something that I actually enjoyed, it became a lot easier to get up and go to the gym. And now I just get
yeah,
up
for
and I
sure.
go. It's like not even a thought. It's like I love feeling healthy. I love being in shape. This feels amazing. And like, why wouldn't I want to be healthy? Because even one of my coaches in like this Aubrey Marcus program, he talks about at some point in your life, your health is going to become your number one priority. It's either going to be when you're younger or it's either going to be when you're older. And so if you can just make that a priority when you're younger, because even if you're wealthy or if you have everything in the world, if you're not healthy, you're not going to feel good.
Yeah.
And it's not even going to be worth having all those things. So you should prioritize your health and then everything else will fall in line below. So yeah, those are just some thoughts that came to mind when I was thinking about talking about your passion.
And I totally agree, especially with what you said about going because it makes you feel good. There's such a huge difference when you're training because you love your body versus training because you hate your body.
Yeah.
And it goes like that throughout life too, and almost everything we do. If you're working hard because you love your job and you love your life, or if
Yeah.
you're working hard because you don't like your job and you don't like your life,
Yeah.
it really reflects in like the quality of what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like it's all about balance. I mean, you can see the guys in the gym that you can tell they're fighting traumas and they're fighting stresses and they're like, I got to feel safe. So I got to work out. I got to bench 500 pounds. Like, do you really need to bench 500 pounds? Or maybe you should do a little yoga
Yep.
so that you have a little flexibility and you don't feel like so strained all the time. But you can see these things. And like a question I always ask myself is like, why are you doing things? Are you doing it to enhance your life or to escape your life, right? And if you're trying to escape your thoughts and you're trying to always worry about what other people are thinking of you, you're probably doing it to escape. But if you're doing it to feel better, feel good, it's probably to enhance. So always try to choose the proper E whenever you're deciding to do anything. That goes with like alcohol, just everything in
I
your
was
life.
gonna say, whenever I go to a party, that's something that I talk about all the time. I always want to go towards the people that I can tell love life. Because
Yeah.
there's two people partying. There's the people partying who don't like their life and they're trying to escape. And then there's
Yeah.
people partying hard because they love life and they want to experience so much more of it. And these two groups will be at the same party intermingling, but like you can see it in one another of like who's there because they just want to experience more out of life. And like I love talking and connecting with those people and sharing experiences. It's always, you
Yeah.
can tell real quick.
Yeah, it's the best. And yeah, I mean, those people will engage you a lot more. A lot of
Mhm.
other people don't really even want to, like the people that are not enjoying life, they don't, it's hard to have a conversation with them because once you start asking the heavy questions, they don't want to have that conversation. They're like,
Yep.
deflecting, or they're trying to change the conversation topic because they don't want to dive deep and they don't want to discuss the heavy shit. And I mean, that's where the beauty in life is. It's discussing the heavy stuff. And I
Mhm.
mean, it's not saying that I'm trying to be heavy hearted all the time, but like that's where the nuggets are and that's where the growth is. And so I like to have a lot of those conversations. Obviously, that's
Yep.
what we're doing today.
Shedding the
Yeah.
layers.
Yeah. Shedding the layers. Exactly. So you went from rugby all-star that I didn't know about to fitness model. You've done the nursing, and then basically so this guy came to you and was suggested doing the OnlyFans. You went to go live in this OnlyFans house, and then at this point now you're doing OnlyFans and you've now connected with your friends. Have you
Yeah.
had like any negative stuff that's happened with friends? Have like people like what is some of the worst stuff that people have like said to you or like done to you going through this? Because I can't imagine that everybody loves it, and I'm guessing there's been some haters.
There definitely has. When it comes to our friends, like I said, everyone's been so supportive. And I don't know if that's always just to me. You know what I mean? People
Yeah.
have their own beliefs, and I totally respect people for
Yeah.
their own beliefs. I did have one friend, a very, very close friend, tell
Yeah.
me, in the beginning, she was right by my side, like cheering me on. You should do it. Every offer, go do it, really excited. And then when I was in it, she said herself, she's making life changes. She's going back to her roots of Christianity
Yeah.
and wants to really give that 100%. And because of that, she wanted to cut our friendship because of what I do for a living. And I respect her so much
Yeah.
for being honest with me and telling me that, because the last thing I would ever want is for someone to be by my side cheering me on when they really have a different opinion.
Yeah.
And she's just so honest. And when we're honest with each other and with ourselves, we just naturally flock to the ones that we are more like and the
Yeah.
ones that are going to help us be our best selves.
Yeah.
And I love that girl to the moon and back. I wish nothing but the best of her. If for some reason in the future she has a change of heart, like she will still be one of my greatest friends. And in the time being, like I said, I want what's best for her. And I'm thankful when people are really honest.
Yeah.
When I had this transition, I had another friend come up to me and be like, I just want you to realize what you're doing, especially if you are posting super sexy photos on Instagram and like my boyfriend is looking at it and this and that. Like, how does that make me feel? And it did make me more conservative about what I was putting out directly to my close family and friends. That's when I started creating separate accounts and kind of having it be a little bit more of like a puzzle to reach what people are trying to get to,
Yeah.
just for that extra layer of protection. But at the end of the day, if I'm like really confident in what I'm doing, and that's all that really matters. Looking back, there's things where I was like, ooh, that was a trashy picture. Why did I, and it's a
Yeah.
learning lesson. It's a stepping
Yeah.
stone. Definitely can't say I'm proud of every photo I've
Yeah.
ever posted or everything I've ever said, because sometimes I look back, especially like even looking back on old Facebook posts in high
Yeah.
school, I'm like, oh, it makes me cringe.
I mean, we
So
we
it's
all
not
feel that same
always
feeling. That's not just
not
you.
always a proud moment,
So,
but
yeah.
I am more sensitive to what I am putting directly in like my friends and family's faces.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess several things come up for me when I hear you say a lot of that stuff. First of all, is like the friends that can't be friends with you, um, based off of their beliefs. And I understand that. But, I think that a lot of these people are just projecting their own insecurities on you. And you're not going out there doing anything morally wrong. But then again, once again, that could be morally wrong for them. So I guess it really just comes back to a matter of perspective, right? What do they believe and what are the things that violate their rules? And also, too, like something I was talking about with the film crew earlier, it's like some friends in your life, they come into your life at the time they need to, and then that relationship ends because you don't have things in common, or maybe you're just not on the same page anymore. And that's
Mhm.
okay too, because you've chosen a path. This path makes you happy, it makes you feel loved. You're doing the things that make you feel good. So you should stay on that path. And if those things don't resonate with somebody else, then it's time for you to go on separate paths. So it's
Yeah.
like, I think this just comes back to like my childhood traumas, maybe just wanting to like make people hear how I feel or making them understand me. But the truth of the matter is, everybody doesn't have to understand you. Everybody doesn't have to agree with you, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's wise for you to handle those situations the way that you did. Yeah. And I can understand too, like, yeah, it's funny because there's a couple of things too. Definitely hearing other friends that have spoken about your situation. I think more the thoughts and the emotions that I get is probably like a bit of jealousy, probably because they wish that they could have figured out to do something like this. And, even the conversation I've had with some of our girlfriends, I'm like, it's not easy to do what she did. It's not
Mhm.
like you're just going to create an OnlyFans and you're going to make a bunch of money from it. She created a business. She created a brand. She's put in the time. She works out every single day. This is like something that's she's done. It's not just like something that just happens out of nowhere. So that's been conversations that I've had. And it's funny too, because I've heard several of our guy friends say that they've gotten in fights with their girlfriends because they see your picture will pop up and they'll be like, why are you looking at it? It's like, what do you mean? Like, she's not doing anything wrong. This is just, it's our friend. If anything, we should be liking it and supporting it because this is how she makes a living. Like the same way you share my post about like lawyer stuff, like this is somebody's business, and it's like
Yeah.
you're not doing anything wrong. You're literally just supporting yourself. And with that conversation, it's something I wanted to talk about later, but it's something that I think we should talk about now, in the sense I was having a conversation yesterday with one of my friends about this podcast and was
Mhm.
talking to her about what you do. And I guess I never thought about this perspective, but she was like, OnlyFans is an amazing thing because, many people I feel use pornography. Let's use that as an example, right?
Mhm.
They use it as like an escape. It's a drug. They go and they disappear and there's no like connection with it. It's just you like going almost like hiding and going and doing this thing. But now it's like created this connection to a human being where there's actually an interaction. It's made it like an interpersonal thing.
Yeah.
Because I think many people, they don't have relationships. They are alone. They don't have somebody that loves them. They don't have somebody that cares about them. And you're almost offering these individuals that don't have this love or this connection or a relationship a connection. And sure, it might not be real, but for somebody who might be struggling mentally or emotionally and just need some love, like this is a way for them to get love. And it's something that, can be genuine. Obviously, there probably are people that disingenuous with what they do, but
Mhm.
you're giving these people some love and attention when they might need it the most. And so it's like you can look at something really badly and you can give it all the stigmas and you can give it all the evil. But I think there's also there's beauty in everything. And it just comes down to like, what are your intentions behind what you're doing?
Yeah. 100%. There are actually people who come on there too. And, I would say 75% of my subscribers really just want to talk. That's all it is. And sometimes I'll go to sell them something sexy and they don't want it. They just want a conversation. And I know about their lives, I know about their dog, I know about their grandma that passed
Yeah.
away. It's like it is just like you said, it's someone to have a real conversation with. And for me, it is much better than someone just sitting down on the couch and eating Cheetos and watching TV and ending up in a hospital where they have to take like real drugs when you called this a drug, which I get what you're saying, it very
Yeah.
much is so, but for me, it feels much healthier, much safer, and more
Yeah.
natural
But like
than the
food is
real
a drug
drugs
too.
you'd
Like,
receive.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
anything, you can correlate a
Anything
lot
can
of
be
things.
abused
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but that is the argument when at the end of the day, when it comes down to, how this could be bad for societies,
Mhm.
just the pornography argument in general. But food can be a drug. When I went to Walmart yesterday and I was looking around at the candy
Yeah.
everywhere and the Tylenol and the over the counter stuff that these people are consuming daily, and looking at that, like that kind of stuff, that's what hurts my soul. Just like
Yeah.
being a nurse in the hospital and passing on these medications that
Yeah.
are no physically damaging to people
Yeah.
versus having an outlet of talking to someone, having real conversations,
Yeah.
things like that is to me, in my beliefs, it just feels much healthier. And especially at the end of the day, when it comes to nudity and things like that, it's our real human bodies. Like it's
Yeah.
the most raw that we can be. And I think
Yeah.
that for me, it's something that I like to celebrate. It's like looking down, wearing clothes all the time is, we're covering ourselves up. I know I'm covering myself up when I'm at home alone and I'm wearing clothes too. I'm more comfortable in clothes, but I want to be more comfortable without clothes because for me, it's like it's part of my spiritual process of me just feeling entirely free.
Yeah.
Like, I think I told you I got naked at Burning Man because it was a
I did not know
tradition
that.
in front of the fire. And I was scared, I'm not like in my home alone anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm scared, but I'm like, this is what I believe in. It really is. So like, I have to do it. And I don't care who's looking at me because this is just it's part of what makes me feel free. And so I did, and I stood there proud, and I see a bunch of other people getting naked and they're not looking at each other and judging each other because it's normal and it's natural.
Yeah.
And like that was a really beautiful place to do it because I'm not offending anybody with my nudity there.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest concern is I don't want to offend anybody, but at the same time I think it's
Yeah.
just such a natural like state of being that should be celebrated
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, when I hear you say these things, it's like, it's interesting with nudity, right? Because there are a lot of stigmas behind it. And I think our like society specifically has made nudity such a negative or a difficult thing in the sense that like it's so faux pas, you shouldn't be doing that, it's you're sexualizing. But like maybe if people just allowed it and it became more natural, then it wouldn't be such a big deal. But it's like they've made it such a big deal and it's turned into this thing that it's almost wrong to be naked and we shouldn't be ashamed. But also maybe people are also ashamed of their bodies. I mean, there can be a million different reasons, but I think like what you're saying, the most important thing is just doing what feels natural to you and what feels right in that moment. And that's the only thing you can ask for. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I know we've been talking about your OnlyFans, and I guess when you're discussing your OnlyFans, you said you have a bunch of subscriptions. How many people have subscribed to your OnlyFans?
Right now it's at a little above 30,000 subscribers right now.
Okay. I guess let's put this into context. So I guess there's obviously rankings for like the most famous, for lack of a better term, OnlyFans people. And in like the top like 100, where would you consider your ranking?
Well, there is a little feature at the top that tells you the percentage that you're ranked amongst the other ones. So I'm always floating in the top 1%
Okay.
of users.
Cool.
So to put that in context of how many users there are exactly, I'm not sure, but
Got
it's
it.
always fluttering within the top 1%.
Okay, got it. And are you friends with a lot of the other girls that are in those top percentages?
Yes, absolutely. And that also goes back into as go after your real passions, how doors open and you meet others that accept you and share similar passions and similar beliefs. I've met the most amazing girls doing this. And they also come from a lot of educated backgrounds, come from a place of wanting to experience more of life, doing this because they love life and not because they hate life, because they want to see more and experience more and push the boundaries and the limits of like what we were told we were supposed to do and question why. And so meeting these girls that have that same mindset as me has been awesome.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I'm sure they're all extremely smart. You don't just make that kind of money not being intelligent.
Yeah.
But they just figured out how to do it with their body and creating a brand that way.
Yep.
Got it. What is like the most amount of money you've ever heard that somebody makes in a month, like on OnlyFans?
Oh, actually, I just looked it up yesterday. There's, so I know Tyga is making 7 million a month right now.
This is a girl on there, or is it a guy?
It's a guy. He's actually a rapper. He started an agency. So that explains him. Cardi B, I think, is making 9 million a month.
God. Okay.
And then Bella Thorne is making 11 million a month.
And Bella Thorne, who is she?
I think she's an actress.
She's an actress.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. How wild. Well, let's talk about maybe not these individuals that are more like famous superstars.
Yeah.
I guess like maybe just talking about like somebody who might be your friends. Like what are they typically making in a month?
So I'd say that like within a circle of people that I have photo shoots with, numbers of like 200K a month or more at the top. More on like a casual of people that I see often, it's probably around 100,000 a month.
Okay.
So a lot of money.
A lot of money, yeah. I mean, that's amazing. It's
Yeah.
and so do you make primarily most of the money from the subscriptions itself, which is like the monthly where you just sign up and you're a part of it, or is it like how do you make most of that money?
So most of it is not from the subscriptions. It's from that like one-on-one human connection. It's
Yeah.
really from talking. So when you're chatting with somebody, they can tip, or you can send them a photo or video where they have to unlock it for a certain amount of money, whatever price you put on.
Mhm.
It could be like sitting at home having a conversation, let's say with someone like named Jessica, and then hop on a video. Hey, Jessica, I'm just watching this movie
Do you
right
get a
now,
lot of
blah, blah,
girls
blah.
too?
It happens sometimes, not very often.
Sorry, you used a girl
I
name. I was
did use
just
a
wondering.
girl
Yeah,
name.
yeah. I was just wondering. I mean, like, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
It does happen. You know what happens too, actually, is I'll get titles of like Max and Jessica. So it's like a couple that'll be on there
Nice.
together.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. There's a lot of interesting ones, but yeah, I feel like the really personal, like getting to know somebody so they can log on and have a conversation with someone who remembers what they just talked about yesterday and the day before.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the bread and butter of it.
Yeah, how sweet. And so you're really just connecting with these individuals and talking to them. And obviously, there's different stuff that they're able to purchase from you. And it sounds like
Mhm.
they just tip you. So there's a myriad of different ways almost to like make money within the OnlyFans platform.
Yeah.
And when I hear you talking about like working with these other girls that you work with, it's essentially like a brand promoting another brand, right? So, like, an example would be like in my industry, if I work with a chiropractor and he does a great job, I'll share his stuff and I'll share his posts because
Mhm.
I want his followers to follow me and vice versa. But you guys are essentially doing the same thing. It's affiliate branding where you're like, hey, follow me on this page. This is my friend. She's amazing too. You should follow her here. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that that's helped to grow like all your social medias and all your platforms across, right? Has that been a
Oh,
huge effect?
exactly. And it's a lot of fun working with other girls too. Last week, me and my friend Corey and Amanda, we went live just playing Twister. We probably stayed on for like an hour and a half, and then we took like dares for tips, truth. So we're playing truth or dare for tips, and then
Mm.
also playing Twister at the same
Oh my
time.
God. This is hilarious. So you're just basically hanging out
So
with your girlfriends and you get
exactly.
and like how much do you guys make in tips like during that whole session?
So usually we each make probably about $1,000 for being on there for an hour. We do that together each too, because we'll go
Yeah,
on each of our things, and we'll do that like once a week with
got
each
it.
other. And then like I went live last week twice by myself. Once because I was doing a shootout in Palm Springs and I rented an Airbnb that looked like a Barbie house. It was so cool. So I like
Mm,
dressed up like Barbie and went live as like Barbie from my little house and
that's
was like giving a
amazing.
little tour.
Oh my
It was
God.
super fun.
Have you seen Barbie?
But I haven't yet.
I saw it.
Is it good?
It's fucking
I
awesome.
heard it's
It's
really
so
good. Oh,
goddamn
I
funny. It's
can't
so
wait.
deep. It's very deep, but it's also very fucking funny. It's
Oh,
all the
that's
things. I highly recommend. Sorry, but
amazing.
yeah, continue with
Oh,
your
no,
Barbie
I'm
story.
glad you brought that
Yeah,
up
yeah.
though. The Barbie house was great because like Barbie has always kind of been my thing. When I played rugby, the back of my jersey said
Obviously,
Barbie. So
stereotypical
now it's like a
Barbie.
trend, but
Yeah,
it's also like not a trend for me. It's just
yeah,
how I've been.
yeah,
So my Twitter's been going viral because I took a bunch of selfies around this Barbie house dressed as Barbie, and like it's just been growing like crazy, like
dude.
faster than it ever has before because
That's
Barbie's
awesome.
trending right now. So
Yeah,
I'm like, this
dude.
is my time.
I feel like you could make an entire OnlyFans like called Barbie or
Yeah,
something, Barbie Alex or something like
exactly.
that. Like definitely would work out
Yeah.
really well for you.
So it's been really fun. That's like lives are a great way for me to engage with my fans too, because they can
Yeah,
chat on there and I can read back to their responses out loud. And,
yeah,
one of them will say a dare and the others will get excited and they chime in together. So it's
nice.
a good way. I even on the last one, I had a lot of questions about the transition from being a nurse into this. And then that content house was called Blonde. So people are like, what happened there? Why did it fall apart? They like to know all the
Yeah,
details. So going live is like a really good way to do that and to cross promote with other girls like we
yeah,
started.
yeah. How'd you like living in that house?
It was a lot of fun, but
And this was in Vegas, right?
yeah, as
Yeah.
you could imagine, like having, so there was a total between everyone, there's 7 of us from all over the United States. And you actually talked to a few of them,
Yeah.
which was really cool.
Yeah, they're all so sweet.
That was the first time that our real jobs,
Yeah,
collided.
real jobs collided. Yeah. Yeah.
And it was great. The problem with that one was the structure from the beginning had some flaws because for us to all be together, all 7 of us, and shooting on the same days at the same time, A lot of us want to go back, have breaks, see family, go to the gym, like do things throughout the day. And some of them didn't come from regular jobs. Like some of the girls came from being models first. So like a structure is something that they didn't really have in sync. So everybody was
Yeah.
on different wavelengths. Arguments happened. There was some drama. There was drama with the manager. He was a very nice guy, but he worked on the Jersey Shore. So this was supposed to be a TV show.
Gotcha.
And he started stirring up the drama before the show started. So
He was already
it
planting the
kind of,
seeds.
yeah,
Gotcha.
it kind of collapsed, honestly, because of the drama that he instigated.
Yeah.
It just blew itself up before the
no.
show started.
Not good producing. Not good. But like,
So-
yeah, so I mean, so you guys were actually supposed to go film like a TV show.
Yep.
Got it. And that just didn't come to fruition. How long did you live there?
So total of 3 months.
Oh, so it wasn't a long time. Got it. So like you didn't even get an opportunity. I mean, like when you were there, did they have like a daily schedule where you have to like film certain things or like,
We did, but so it started as voluntary and then it turned into mandatory, and that's when things started to get heated because when it was voluntary, we weren't doing as much, obviously, but when it was mandatory and things were cracking down, that's when the drama really began. But at first, in the beginning, it was the most fun because we had this whiteboard and it would be like every day of the week, it would be ideas on what to do. So it'd be like, Thirsty Thursday, like Sexy Sunday,
Yeah.
like all these ones. And we would have different times of the day that we found to be most effective to post, different ideas like sexy foods to eat or like different places to go. We had a pool in the backyard. We had each other to film each other.
Yeah.
There was so much to do,
Yeah.
so many ideas. We were all so fresh and excited because I came from nursing. There was another girl that came from the military. Another girl was a hairdresser. So we all came from like way different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And starting OnlyFans, that was right in the beginning of COVID too. So it was when it started to grow. So we started making money on it all together for the first time and going live, like learning what the live feature is and pushing the button together and being like, what's this? And then all of a sudden it became into like a bunch of fun, and then Dare started, and then we're all sitting in a bathtub together. Like, things escalate quickly.
Yeah.
It was just so much fun. But after that, none of us ended up going back to our regular jobs.
Yeah, I can imagine.
None of us did.
Yeah, I'm sure it was
So the cross promotion in that alone was,
Yeah.
even though the TV show didn't happen, it really changed our lives.
That's awesome. Do you stay in touch with those girls from that house?
A little bit. We all kind of trickled back. Most of them stayed in Vegas. As soon as it was done, I came back to LA because there's something really special about LA for me in the style of like photography and art and the creatives that are there. Other areas that do the type of, OnlyFans photography stuff is very much the same looking to me.
Yeah.
I try to get creative. Like I really love modeling as like an art form first and foremost, since that was kind of like my hobby to begin with. So coming back and being able to collaborate with people who are really obsessed with their art and their craft was my favorite part. So I came right back to LA immediately. Hopefully back to Orange County eventually, but
Yeah, I mean, it's all the same. We're all right next to each other. They're all in the same hemisphere. Okay, I have a question for you. What are you going to say to your kids when they look at this one day?
oh man, I've thought about this a lot.
Yeah, I figured you have, so I wanted to hear the answer.
I feel like they're going to be really thankful for their house.
Yeah. They're not going to care too much.
It's kind of going to be the lead,
Yeah.
but-
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like anything in life, right? I think kids are going to feel your intention behind things, right? And I'm sure there's people that do this industry that don't have good intentions and are just trying to be free and just doing it for the money, but people can also feel that too. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm just interested. I don't know what I would say to my kids if I was in your position. It's just like, yeah, this is how I make a living. I'm not doing anything wrong on here. How do you feel about it? And maybe just even having an open conversation, because I'm sure that kids at school might even bring it up to them, because
for sure.
that's what I was going to say. Like, I remember seeing like on the news and stuff, sometimes like women that do it that have children, then the other kids like bring up the photos and like, hey, this is your mom type of thing. Like, how are you going to deal with those situations?
So it's definitely been at the top of my head, especially like I was on the cover of Playboy, FHM, and then Playboy Mexico, Playmate, and the cover of Penthouse in the United States. Like my mom walked in Barnes & Noble and saw me in there on a Penthouse magazine. But she took a picture with it. She was proud of me. And I was like, oh my God, that meant so much because I was mostly
Yeah.
scared for her when that came out. But I
That's
am,
so sick. I didn't know that you were on the covers of all of those. That's
yeah.
rad. Congratulations. Those are
Thank
huge
you.
publications.
But
That's
it's
rad.
my
Yeah.
kids are definitely gonna see
Yeah.
it,
There's
like
no hiding
for
that.
sure.
Yeah.
And I know that I want kids. I know that I want to be the best mom I can be. And right now, a big driving force behind this is to
Yeah.
be a great mom one day,
Yeah.
to build hopefully some generational wealth. Because even with, making good income now, I'm still, I drive a Kia. I don't buy designer shoes and designer stuff to just blow it. I'm very much just saving because I want to make investments so that in the future my family can be safe from whatever economy takes a dip, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean. I'm very much thinking about that right now, and I hope that they will understand that when the time
Yeah.
comes. It's a scary world we live in.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen with the economy, so I'm
Yeah.
just like trying to hit it hard so that my kids have a chance of going to college and doing those
Yeah.
things. And it's going to be interesting trying to explain that to someone so young.
Yeah. You know, too, like, I guess I don't know. I guess I'm asking you. So I know that girls in your industry, they can get invited to like by like super wealthy men to like go on trips like with them, and they just get paid a bunch of money to do that. Do you do stuff like that, or has this been proposed to you? Like, are like for lack of a better term, like sugar daddies, right? Somebody that would basically support you, and then you basically come and live with them. Because I definitely have girlfriends that I know that have done this type of thing. Has that been things that have been proposed to you, or do you know people that have done this?
Yeah, it gets proposed often, very often. I actually have two. I'm not gonna name them. There are very, very big celebrities who have been sending me DMs on Instagram with their phone numbers. Let's go on this trip. I'll buy you all this stuff. Like, it's surprising. I didn't expect to receive so much of that. And because I still feel like I'm a small fish. So like to receive stuff like that
Mm.
it's flattering, but at the same time, what I'm doing with this, I do see it like a business. It's also like that, communication with people in their own homes, but I have never met a fan or anyone from Instagram or anything because I do also value my lifestyle. I manage myself. So there was someone that booked me for 3 events. This happened today, actually. Booked me for 3 events, paying me super, super well. And he's like, I just wanted to add on another photo shoot in your hotel room, like nude. And I'm like, absolutely not. This is not at all what that was. He started giving me a really hard time, and I just blocked him because, especially managing myself, it's a lifestyle. I choose who I work with. I choose who I let in my bubble and in my life. And I feel very grateful to have a choice in that. But I am automatically going to nix anything that doesn't feel right to my heart and right to my soul, because I'm
Yeah.
really blessed to be able to make the money that I make from the comfort of my own home,
Yeah.
and within my boundaries and in
Yeah.
what like deeply feels right to me. So when I'm offered something that doesn't feel well, I'm like, it's easy for me to turn it down because I do have so much going for me that feels so right. So I just
Yeah.
keep moving towards the things that feel good for my soul, if that makes sense.
No, that makes complete sense. And I'm imagining there's girls out there that don't care and they just do all these things,
Yeah, and if
right?
that feels good for their soul
Yeah.
too, because that's honestly, it's more of what's in my nature. I'm more of an introvert, so what I do works well for me.
Yeah.
I know a lot of girls I work with, and I love and I respect them for it. They're extroverts, and when they
Yeah.
get these invites, they're just like, "Fuck yeah!" and they love
Yeah.
it, and they have an amazing time, and I'm their biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
But for me, being more of an introvert, the way that I'm navigating mine just feels right for me.
Yeah. And I mean, like, there's, from what I've understood with OnlyFans too, it's like there's girls that do extreme and hardcore stuff and do
Mhm.
all kinds of things, right? And then there's girls that are just like doing nude photos and stuff like that. So I'm guessing with the wide spectrum of, what feels good for them as an individual is just whatever they're going to go for and they're going to
Mhm.
be okay with. But I guess, like, just asking you, like, when a famous person like that does reach out to you or a celebrity, why wouldn't you want to go on that trip?
Well, I mean, the ones that ask me, when I look at their style, the way that they live life isn't the way that I want to live life.
Got it.
So if it was someone that seemed like genuinely they'd be a friend or like in line with the same beliefs as me, or it's someone that I would just enjoy hanging out with, that would be different,
Gotcha.
if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. That's great. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I want to ask you, what are some of the weirder things that people have ever asked you to do? Because from what I understand, obviously there's like the wide range of things where people ask you to rate certain things, right? Or
Yeah.
people ask you to like do certain stuff for them. I'm sure there's like weird foot stuff, but like what is probably the top 3 weird things that anybody's asked you to do? If you can share them or you'd be willing to share them.
Well, okay. I would love to like give you an order of like least to most, but there's one that's just definitely on the top of my mind. I would love to share because it was when I first started doing this. It was actually before I started an OnlyFans when I was still thinking about it. I got a message from a big account. The whole thing was legit.
What does a big account mean?
A big account. It had a lot of followers. And at the time, it was so many years ago. I don't know how many followers it had, but I looked at it and I was like, oh, this is real. So the account was for people who have a fetish of men being injured by women. So this guy was offering me $40,000 to run him over in a car. He had all the paperwork for it. He had already done it twice, and he had videos of it. And they filmed this. It's like a big production, and it's like a monster truck on sand. Like, and the way that they run him over, he gets injured, but like still survives, and it's part of the whole fetish. And I guess there was waivers and everything where I wouldn't get in trouble at the end of the day, but and at the time too, I was really struggling financially. So I was like $40,000, I was struggling so hard financially.
You should have done that.
No, I couldn't. I just looked at it and I was like, there's
That's
no
so
way.
epic.
Because if something ever happened to this person, I would not be able to live with myself.
It's okay, you're a nurse. You just go down there after and you help them out. There's no way. You should have totally done this. This is so funny. So you were going to drive over this dude in a monster truck and he was going to be in sand. He was maybe going to break a bone or two.
Yep.
And when he did it the previous times, did he break body parts?
Yeah.
So he like wants to break something.
Yeah.
Fuck. That is so fucked. That's 12 out of 10. I mean, that's bad. That's really cool though. Like that's what these people are propositioning you to do.
Yeah, it was crazy. Honestly, looking back now,
I've never even heard of this.
Now today,
Have any
like
of you heard of this before? Okay, cool. I'm just making sure I'm not crazy. Okay.
Now that years have passed, looking back, I'm like, maybe it doesn't seem like that bad of an idea because it is sand, it isn't a monster truck. But at the time, I was just like so blown away by this offer. Like, figuring this stuff out. I was mind blown.
Dude, that's wild.
Like, no way.
Okay, that's actually really cool of a thing. All right, what's a weird thing that somebody has asked you to do?
I'm surprised at the amount of men who want to be dominated. Okay. Like the amount of people who want to be spoken to, who want to be called a bitch, a slave, it's a lot more than I was expecting. Yeah. So that's been a surprise.
I've heard about this. This is like called financial dominatrix, where you're just like, shut up, you little bitch, give me money right now. And they literally just give you money. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's worse things in life.
Yes. That one I actually, again, before I started an OnlyFans, I was getting those in my DMs. Yeah. And I was like, what? And so
do they tell you what to say to them?
Yeah.
And then, do you like do a voice recording or is it just like typing?
Well, so before I started OnlyFans, I got a few people asking. They would tell me exactly what to say, and I literally just typed it back, and then they would send me a gift, and I'm like, what? So interesting. I was so confused. How easy that was.
I don't even know what to say about it. That's something. Yeah.
But those I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. Of course there's feet people. I feel like that's the easiest.
That's the easiest? Yeah. What do? Just take a picture of your feet?
Yeah, and they like the soles of the feet, especially when you like crunch your toes and the bottom of your foot gets a little like scrunchy. That's the golden ticket right there. That's the juice that's worth the squeeze.
Do they like ever tell you to wear like outfits on your feet or anything?
No, I mean, like, outfits, absolutely not.
I mean, I don't know. Does anybody ever ask you to wear like costumes or things, like weird costumes? Like, has anybody asked you to wear like an animal costume or something like that?
I haven't gotten that yet.
No, you haven't gotten that yet.
An animal costume, I totally would.
Yeah, that doesn't sound horrible. Yeah, I'm sure that they ask
like, let me open my closet. There's already a ton of them in there.
Yeah, that's funny. That's fair. They don't know you're Burning Man past. Yeah. Oh man, dude, what a wild, interesting field to be in. What's one of the weirdest things you've ever heard any of your friends getting asked to do?
I'm trying to think for the sake of privacy what I can spill.
Spill it
No.
all.
I'm gonna have to think more about that one because the only ones I can think of, I probably shouldn't tell.
Got it. Were they that wild?
Yeah.
But how would the person know that person? I guess they would know because it's that wild.
Yeah.
So they couldn't even. That's wild. That's pretty damn wild that it's that specific. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's fair. Okay. All right. So we won't discuss that. All right. Has anybody offered to like fly you out other than like famous people, like just normal clients, or is
Yeah.
yeah? Does that happen often?
Yeah.
Got
And
it.
that is honestly where that road ends, and it ends often a lot. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that subscribe just to get a chance to speak back and forth, and then when they get that chance to speak, it's the first thing they ask, and when I shoot it down, then they're like, "Bye." But that's okay.
Got it. That's funny. I remember listening to a podcast where somebody was talking about how they literally have a guy that their job is to bring them girls, and their job is to reach out to these girls on Instagram, reach out on OnlyFans, and that's what they do is they literally message and say, "Hey, will you come to this party? Will you come to this place? We'll pay you this amount of money, and you just have to hang out or whatever." And that's literally what somebody's job is. So I wonder if those are like the similar people just like reaching out, or those are just the individuals trying to fly you out too. I'm sure it's probably a combination of both.
Yeah. And it depends. Like there is some that also they do like mixers or luncheons where they have you come and sign autographs and things like that. And it gets a little like there's a fine line to cross. I can tell when I'm communicating with them of like what the intention behind it is.
Yeah.
And that's what I have to juggle because
Of course.
when I'm managing myself, they could start with something like that and then they'll lead into asking for more and more and more. And as soon as that starts to happen, I'm just like, I got to cut it because I know where it's going to lead. And that back and forth could go like all day. It can be really consuming with those ones. But yeah, there is a lot of that. A lot of people do subscribe just to ask that.
Gotcha. And I guess let me ask you a question. What are you thinking long term with this? Are you planning on doing OnlyFans for the rest of your life, or like what's the situation there? Like, or is this going to be, until your looks fade, for lack of a better term, or do you just think that you'll have a fan base and a following that people will keep doing this forever? Like, what do you think?
That is a great question because my mind on that and the way I see it is always changing. When I started doing this, it's crazy to think I started like 3.5 years ago now because I was like, I'm just going to do this for a few months and then go back to nursing. And then I'm just going to do this for another year and then go back to being a nurse. And then when I realized that I can just be myself and be free and be me, I'm like, okay, I'm actually going to keep doing for sure social media. OnlyFans has been such a big part of it that the people on there, they're so supportive of everything that I do, my daily life, my DJing.
Yeah.
Like actually my entire DJing, I have to thank someone on OnlyFans for. They're like, what do you want to do? I was like, I would love to be a DJ. And they're like, you should go to DJ school. And I'm like, that's a great idea. I would love to. And they like picked out a DJ school for me. It was the sweetest thing.
No,
so
nice.
like a
They
lot
like
of people
paid for an online program for
yeah,
you.
and like they actually care about
Yeah.
real world stuff. So as I age and my body changes and maybe I won't want to use the platform the same way that I use it now, I'm still confident that there's going to be people on there who still want to see more of me and talk to
Yeah.
me. And I am in full control of who I respond to, how I speak to them.
Yeah.
So it's very much like developing these relationships of people who are supporting you because they're fans.
Yeah.
So if I could keep that going for forever, I absolutely will.
Yeah.
I didn't see that as an option 2 years ago. I thought this was definitely just a super short-term thing.
Get
but
rich
now
quick
that,
scheme.
yeah, and
Yeah.
now that I see what it is and how nice people can be and genuine and building these connections, I'm like, this could be, a forever thing.
Yeah, you just have to build a brand. I mean, this is exactly why I was interested in talking to you. You're just building a business. You are the brand. You already have, how many followers do you have on Instagram?
So 665,000 on my one account, and then my other one has like 400,000, and my other one has like 200,000. But they're different because when one went down, I built up another one.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a cross there, but between them all, I would say I probably have about 1 million
Followers.
users. Yeah.
Got it. And then how many followers? You said about 30,000 on OnlyFans. Got it. So I mean, like, all in all, like you've literally created a brand, right? And
Yeah.
so you can use that for whatever you want to use. It can be a platform for whatever you want to do in the future. It is no easy task to get 1 million followers on any account, much less you've seemed to have repeat success between 3 accounts. So it's like you can probably figure out what you want to do with it. And something interesting too is because you're very eloquent, right? You're intelligent. And so you can probably even like pivot or change a bit if you wanted to later on down the road to something else using your platform and using the people that have followed you, because as you pointed out with OnlyFans, they're following obviously, your looks and your and the photos and stuff, but also it seems to be they're following your personality along with all of it too.
Yeah. And I feel really lucky for that too. That's one thing I learned doing this is that the people that are subscribing, for whoever they're subscribing to, it's because they want to see more of that person, like
Mm,
whatever it is they have to offer. Because not everybody on there is doing nude or sexy
yeah.
things. Like a lot of it, like I said, is just like that relationship building, or they just want to, they're fascinated by someone. They want to learn more from them, hear more about them, get advice from them,
Yeah.
things like that. But I'm hoping that in the future, I do know I love social media and I've been good at building different ones. And
Mm,
when one, like I just had my page down for like a month by a hacker. So then I went on Twitter and just blew that up, which was awesome. It was a blessing in disguise. And then I
yeah.
got my main page back and now I'm like, cool, I got both. It's kind of what happened with all the pages, but I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I've got repeated success with building social media accounts. So maybe that's something in the future when I'm getting tired of taking photos myself, I can help other women or men to take photos, build their social media and do things like that.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Scoot forward 4 inches. There we go. Perfect. Yeah. It's definitely a skill set to be able to build your social media.
Hmm.
It's something that I've actually honestly struggled with a bit lately because even like I've been changing a lot of the stuff I've been posting lately, but none of it's really seemed to catch on or like grow too much. But I mean, obviously, you're a beautiful blonde girl that's gorgeous. And so it's something that's easier to follow, I feel like, right? So it's like you definitely could teach other people that are younger and maybe even like help coach them. Because I know a lot of the people that make a lot of money in your industry are people that help manage other accounts, right? And
Hmm.
I'm sure that there's like companies that are probably out there that they manage like 5, 10 people's accounts. They do the messages and they do that kind of stuff. Is that something that's very common?
Yeah, I mean, surprise. I think that there's a shortage of social media managers out there right now because it's changing so much. So many
Mm,
platforms are being built. I don't know if you just heard about Twitter going into it's being called X.
mm.
There's Elon is changing it into yeah. Yeah, so
Into X?
there's
Sick.
yeah, there's a lot of changes happening. And I think there's like a shortage of people to help guide that because then you also have like Facebook and Facebook
Mm,
business and YouTube shorts. And then you have
mm.
TikTok and then you have Instagram. So like to go to one person to help you navigate all of that, there's not a lot of people doing that right now.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a lot to keep up with. And as a pretty girl, you're right. It's a lot easier
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
But there is always, depending on your niche, like Facebook Reels on the business page. I was just taking my extra reels from Instagram and loading them on there, and they got like more views with no following than my Instagrams with 1 million followers, just
Mm.
because different things will hit. There's also Lomo, which Elon Musk is an investor in, which is like a TikTok but an American version.
No.
They're boosting people too. So there's just like there's so many things to figure out. It's always changing. But I think because we're in this time of this just growing out of control,
Yeah.
it's there's not a lot of people that are mastering it yet.
Yeah. Everyone's still figuring it out.
Hmm.
How interesting. Wild. Hmm. Okay. So I guess we've covered a lot of the topics that I wanted to cover. So I guess I want to ask some questions, more personal stuff about you. Going through this entire process from beginning to end, what is the biggest mistake that you made and what did you learn from it?
The like if I could change anything, I wish that I would have just followed my heart and started attacking everything sooner. Like when it comes to OnlyFans and social media, I was scared of what people would think at first. I was
Mm,
treading so lightly and I did make mistakes. And like I said, like not all of my posts I'm proud of. I definitely learned as I went. But looking back, I'm like, I just wish I would have just grown the balls to do that sooner
yeah.
because it paid off like tenfold. And I really like I love to look at life as just a place to create and a place to grow. And like we're all gifted these bodies. And like I was saying earlier to you, like we none of us know exactly why we're here, what we're doing here. And none of us have the handbook for how we're supposed to live this life.
Yeah.
So to listen to someone else tell you how to do it, it just doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we're all creators. We're part of this creation together.
Yeah.
And so like to keep exploring it with confidence is something that I wish I would have done sooner.
Yeah. I mean, we're all on our own journeys and everybody's trying to figure out what makes them happy and how they can feel loved. So
Yep.
at the end of the day, it's different for every single person and you just have to do what feels right. And I mean, for me, that correlation is just following your intuition, which correlates more to like listening to God. And because that conversation is the same conversation.
Yep.
But what I would ask you is you brought up a point that when you did those things that like those posts that you did in the past where they didn't feel right, what was wrong with those posts?
Oh, just probably nothing specific.
Like too sexy or like what why were they wrong?
Like when I first started shooting, it maybe the background didn't really go well with the outfit that went with the shoes, and it can go from like looking artsy to like
Yeah.
looking trashy real quick, just
Got it.
based on aesthetic.
Yeah.
Those are kind of the regrets I'm talking about, and it's not even.
Yeah.
It's again just learning the aesthetic, and it takes
Yeah.
practice. And so, and I see people joining in the industry, and I'm like, oh, they forgot to point their toe. If they pointed their toe,
Yeah.
it looks so awesome. But it's part of the practice, and then
Yeah.
they'll figure that out too.
Yeah, because I guess for you, you don't feel that you're a porn star. You know, you're something
Yeah.
different. You're almost like a nude model. And so I'm guessing that's a completely different mentality than some of the girls that are there and that they do feel like porn stars or they are porn stars and
Yeah.
they have a completely different experience. And so, yeah, so I guess it's your art versus what their art is, right? And you've almost like mastered your art. And I definitely understand like posting in specific ways, the way the background looks, how it feels, because all those things, as you dial them in more and more, it just feels better and it looks better.
Yep. And it's
Yeah.
just all about practice too. And I've got some friends now who are starting to get into OnlyFans and
Yeah.
asking me questions on getting started from the beginning, and it's so exciting for me to
Yeah.
help them. I'm like, yeah, because there's so many things that if I would have known sooner, it just would have like gotten me there so much faster.
Yeah.
But it's all about practice, and mistakes definitely get made along the way. And then you look back and you wish you would have like done things here or there. But the thing about making the mistakes in this is it's very public. When you
Yeah.
make the mistake, everybody's looking at it.
Yeah, but that
So
also
that's the
makes you
difference.
human.
Yep.
And that makes you much more relatable. And I think those are the things that people connect with more than anything else is just being able to relate to you in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, and then I had a question for you. What do you think is like your greatest superpower as an individual? And how has it lent to your success?
I do think that I have done a good job of being unapologetically me. And I am a firm believer that the more that we are ourselves with mistakes and flaws and triumphs and everything involved, it inspires others to be more of themselves too. And that is really important to me. So yeah, that's what I would say. Being very strongly myself, because I am like, I feel very different in a lot of my situations. In the situations where I go shoot with other girls in my same industry, I am different in the sense that I'm super spiritual.
Yeah.
But I love having that difference because I love it when people ask me about those questions. I love to help people in that situation. Anyone that wants to explore spirituality or plant medicine or has questions about these things, I love going down that path. And then when it comes to my very spiritual friends and they look at me as this OnlyFans girl and they ask me questions about that, like I said, I've got some friends that are now considering joining that industry. That makes me passionate because I'm like, yeah, be free entirely,
Yeah.
And so it's like bouncing back between those, but being able to be both and not be ashamed of being both, and also be a nurse and say, yeah, I do OnlyFans too, because I strongly, strongly believe that we should be allowed to just be ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess also you have worst case scenario. You can always go back to being a nurse.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not a bad backup plan.
And if I fall back into that, now I will be forced to work in an environment that accepts me for who I am, because I have been so public with what I do.
Yeah.
And that was a big fear of mine, is like, oh, I won't be able to work in a hospital, or I won't be able to work here. And to be honest, I don't want to work anywhere where I can't be myself. I want to be able to post what I want to post on social media.
Yeah.
And of course, there's still a professional environment. When I'm there, I'll behave a certain way.
Of
But
course.
like when I'm outside of work, I want to not be limited by, who I am and what I'm allowed to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess I was going to ask you a question, which was if you could go back and talk to your younger self and tell them, give them a piece of advice. But I feel like I know what you would say, which is, start being yourself sooner and starting to express
Yeah.
yourself at a younger age and going down that route. So you've already kind of answered that question. Yeah. And if you could be any superhero, who would you be and why?
Ooh. I'm not really like familiar with all the superheroes. I would want to be someone that heals.
Yeah.
I don't know of a superhero. Like I would love to,
Yeah, you'd be like a wizard or a mage or somebody that
yeah,
has magic
like someone
powers.
that heals, like emotional and physical stuff.
Emotional stuff too?
Yeah.
Now you're asking for a lot. That's a completely different beast all in itself. You want to hear childhood dramas with your
Yeah.
hand? That's it?
I'm gonna have to create that superhero.
Yeah, it's not a bad superhero. Have your parents ever had people come up to them and be like, your daughter does this and has it been shameful for them? Have they ever brought that up?
So they've never brought up it being shameful. I'm super close with my parents, so I'm hoping if that ever happened, they'd feel comfortable to bring
Yeah.
it up. My dad's friends do bring up like, I remember our neighbor is like my dad or our old neighbor where I grew up. The girl, she was my close friend growing up, their daughter, and then the father's one of my dad's best friends, and the mother's my mom's best friend. When I got on the cover of Playboy, I went to a family gathering. He called on the phone, my dad's best friend, and he was like so proud. And it made me so excited because that again is one of my fears. Like, what if they go and subscribe and they take screenshots of everything? And I had one person actually, now this is brought up, I did have one person do that one time. And my mom was like, I already know. She told me everything.
Yeah.
Like, why are you bothering me with this? Like, I'm sorry. She told them, I'm sorry it bothers you, but it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother her.
Yeah.
So this was an outside thing. So she actually totally had my back in that. And I was really excited that I had told her everything because I was
Yeah.
wondering, like, did I need to tell them so many details? But I
Yeah.
tell them details about everything. They know, and they've been very proud of
Yeah.
me for just making my own way in life. So
Why do you think your parents are more open than other parents? How were they raised that they're okay with this?
I don't know.
Because I get anxiety just thinking if I had to tell my parents anything like this. Like, I just like, what's your background?
So Swedish. My mom grew up in California, so that kind of explains her side. My dad grew up more conservative. He grew up on, a small farm area in Sweden, and I would consider them to be, they're not super religious, but they are more conservative. Like,
Yeah.
they're not party animals or anything like that. So when I brought it to their attention, I was not expecting as much of positive feedback as I am. And they'll tell me they're not, they weren't hoping I would do this.
Yeah,
They're
of
not
course.
like necessarily stoked on it.
Yeah,
but they
they
are
would rather
stoked.
you be a doctor than
Yeah, exactly.
doing
They would
this.
rather me
Yeah.
doing a lot of other things. But they are stoked that I'm really happy.
Yeah.
They're stoked that, I can support myself. They're stoked when they see me go travel the world. That's been a huge thing too, being able to travel and still work and do what I
Yeah.
love. I love to give back. And they see that too. Like my favorite part, I went to Egypt and Thailand this year, and I spent more money on giving to people than on my trip because it made me so excited to be able to like provide
Yeah.
and make such a big difference to somebody that wouldn't have otherwise gotten that. So it's just the way that I'm navigating it, I think makes them proud.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you don't have any siblings that you've had to deal with this with?
Well, I have a sister.
Oh, you do have a sister.
Yeah. And she's got a family.
Is she older or younger?
She's older.
Okay.
She's amazing. She's my best friend. We actually don't talk about what I do for a living that much, but when we do, like, I always thought maybe it made her uncomfortable, so that's why I wasn't bringing it up. I had a situation where I was having a hard time, and I opened up to her about it, and she just gave me the most empowering advice, and I realized in that moment that, like, deep down, she is like my parents. She's proud of me, and she doesn't have a problem with it. Because when I was confiding in her in this, I thought maybe I would get a like, well, this is what happens when you have naked photos on the internet, or like, a response like that.
Well, what happened?
And instead, so I just had stuff that leaked, and
Okay.
I was upset because I couldn't get it down.
What
And
does leaked mean? It's just like on sites it shouldn't be?
yeah.
Okay.
And I was upset I couldn't get it down because then again,
Doesn't that kind
my
of just act
kids
as like
in the
publicity
future-
for you though?
It does.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking from like, no publicity is bad publicity.
Yeah,
So it's like even if a couple photos leaked, I feel like maybe it would lead people to coming to your page
it
from
does.
those other sites. So it's almost better that it leaked.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I do want to have kids in the future and I do like
Yeah.
value my family. So I had this like protective bubble of like hoping that nothing gets leaked, knowing that it could. And it's not that
Yeah.
I'm like ashamed of it. It was more of like, how am I going to explain this to my future kids? Like that's more where it was coming from. So when
Yeah, but I
I,
mean, like your Instagram, everything was already out
it
there. So
is.
like you were almost like lying to yourself in the sense that you thought that was really creating a buffer where it's not creating a buffer at all.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just this was just leaked a lot more than I had expected or had previously experienced. So when
Yeah.
it happened, it was like a shock. And I was with my sister, and I told her, and she gave me the best advice, and she was just like rooting me on. It was like, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing awesome. Like, who
Yeah.
cares about this stuff? You know, she was just so. She just gave me the best words of advice, and so that's when I realized that even though we don't talk about what I do for a living that much, it's because it doesn't really phase her. And I was
Yeah.
like, I was really excited about that.
It makes me feel so nice when I hear that your family supports you so much.
Hmm.
That's really awesome. And it's a blessing in itself because when your family is not behind you, it can crush you in many different ways.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And so having that love and support is very, very important, and can boost your success and boost your mental health in many different ways. Let's talk for a second. So we're going to go off the record just for whoever's recording this. Is there anything that you felt like we didn't cover that you want to cover? What is the dumbest thing you've spent? Do you know your answer?
I mean, I've definitely spent $1,000 on a light up coat because I like what the lights do. And
That's sick.
I did it a few
That's
times.
Yeah, but that's to me that doesn't sound that dumb. That sounds like a great idea. Once again, a light up quote,
A light up coat.
light up quote,
Like with lights
light
on
up
it,
coat.
'cause the lights do a cool thing.
Yeah, you never been to Burning Man. This is a very real thing. I have a lot of light up shit too.
I'm
So
trying to think. I probably bought something for stupid for a festival. I mean, I bought a massage table one time so I could just put it out at Desert Hearts and lay on it, thinking someone would come massage me. And nobody came.
that's pretty funny. I bet you'd have a lot of people line up now. That's fair. I don't know. I spend a lot of stupid money on stupid shit.
lightsaber.
Yeah, no, my lightsaber, that's a great invention. We built our own lightsaber, me and my buddy, that we can control with our phone, and it's like my signature thing at festivals. I mean, I guess one of the dumbest things is probably bottle service. I spent a lot of stupid money on bottle service, but then again, at that moment, it feels great. So I don't know. I don't know. Man, this is a tough question.
I have other questions.
Because I don't know how to explain it. Just like, I'm very much like a fly by the seat of pants type person. So I'm just like, oh, this is a great idea. So we'll do this.
Yeah.
So I can say I've thrown tens of thousands of dollars throughout my life down the drain on stupid life decisions. And just think twice before you spend your money is the best advice I can give you. But also at the same time, too, like part of the reason that I asked the question about the mistakes is because I've made so many mistakes with my money. I'm a lot smarter with my money now, but I had to feel the pain of making stupid mistakes with my money. So I know what to do with it at this stage of my life. But if I didn't feel those financial pains, then I wouldn't know. Like, I don't gamble anymore. I might throw like a couple bucks here and there when I'm in Vegas, but I had to learn the hard way when I was broke how to not gamble because I had this one weekend in Vegas. I spent all this money when I was younger, and it was like all the money I had saved up, and I literally was like, okay. My buddy had told me about progressive betting with gambling. He's like, so what you do is you take the amount that you want to win, and then you just need to get that amount, and you double it every time until you win again, and then you'll win all your money back from the weekend. So I lost, a couple G's when I was younger, maybe like almost close to like 10 G's, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna make these bets. I'm just gonna bet like $5,000. Basically, what I did is I tried the progressive betting. I ended up like tripling my loss because the dealer got like 7 blackjacks in a row. There's like it was like statistically impossible, but like I had to learn the hard way. So now I'm just like, I'm good. I'm not really gonna gamble. I'm gonna just here's a couple $100. Bring me my shots of Jaeger bombs, and that's about all I need, and gonna have a good time. But like all the stupid money just really teaches you to be smart money. That's the lesson with dumb spending. So yeah, I know that was a tangent, but
You saying all that, I did remember I did a similar thing with crypto. first of all.
Dude,
So
I
like
don't even want to fucking talk about
But
cryptocurrency.
another stupid thing
Oh,
I did
man.
spend my money on that was this time at least tangible
Yeah.
was I bought a dope RV,
Yeah.
decked out the inside. It was 40 feet long. I was worried about driving it. As soon as I did go to drive it, it just broke down. And then because it was 40 feet, like AAA couldn't tow it. So
Yeah,
I
what the
had to
fuck are
wait
they
for
gonna do
like
with that
special
thing?
tow trucks to come
Yeah.
and bring it to a shop. Shop fixed it up. I get on the road, start driving it, breaks down again. So I decked out this whole 40-foot RV, and then I ended up having to sell it before I even used it once because
I didn't know
it
you
just
did
didn't
this.
even drive.
Oh man, but that's not a bad purchase.
I
That's just
mean-
you should have had a mechanic look at it before you just drove it off the lot. That's your lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, you did actually spend stupid money if you
I
didn't get it checked
did.
out.
It
'Cause,
was
yeah,
really sick inside though.
yeah, I was like, Mike and I were looking into buying an RV recently for the burn because we're just like, we spend all this money every single year on it, might as well buy one. But I was like, you know what? I'm only going to do this if I have like one of my friends, Nick Cruz. I was like, he knows everything. He knows how to build engines, do all that stuff. I was like, I'll buy a nice one if you'll come and make sure that the thing is legit and it's good to go. And so that's going to be the plan for next year is we're going to buy one and I'm going to pay him his like rate for a month. I'm just going to have him stay and pay him like maybe like 10 grand and he's just going to deck out the whole thing and I'll pay for materials and he's going to make it super sick. And then you can rent it out as a business. Just like on RV Share, Outdoorsy, all that fun stuff. Yeah.
What I learned from that experience though is it's best to get like a toy hauler or a travel trailer separate from the drivetrain. Like get a truck and get the
Why?
toy hauler or travel trailer.
Just 'cause the engine.
So the truck you can replace, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Then
and
you
then
don't have
there's
to worry
nothing
about
you
that. You don't
really
have to worry
even
about
do.
mileage. You don't have to worry about anything like that.
I
And the
didn't-
slide outs and the space is just it's just set up way better.
Dude, that makes so much more sense. Yeah, because then you just have a sick trailer.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're probably like 1/3 the price.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to worry about fixing shit. But you
Yep.
do have to have a truck.
And trucks can get expensive, but then if it breaks down, at least you could get it towed by a real
Yeah.
tow truck. You
That's
can
fair.
find a mechanic that knows how it works.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to deal with.
Got it. These are really good life lessons. Okay, cool.
The best part about being friends with Joe is that he will always tell me exactly how it is, even if I don't want to hear it. Like even if I don't even know it, if I'm doing something or acting a certain way that is not in my best interest, he will pull me aside and he will tell me, even if I wasn't expecting it, questioning it, whatever, and bring it to my attention instead of just turning away. Like most friends don't want to stop a good time to help someone in that sense. And Joe will always help me in that sense.
Oh, thanks.
I've actually made some like life shifts, big life shifts after our talks, and I've appreciated it so much.
Thank you for the compliment. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad that you heard my words because, you know, it's funny that you bring that up because I do love to have those conversations with friends, but I feel like I try to only have it with the friends that I think are actually listening to what I'm saying. Because when you get emotional like that, it's tough when people don't hear you.
Yeah. And it's always been in like a positive way too. You're
Yeah.
not like, stop doing this. You're like, no, things might be better if you do things this way. It's like
Yeah.
always a gentle way.
Yeah, no, it's because I was raised very aggressively with my mom. And so, like, because she was so aggressive with me, I realized it didn't work. It just pushed me further and further away from her and made me not want to do the things that she did. So I've learned, you know, it's always easier to get bees with honey when you're being kind and when you're being nice and you're just kindly suggesting instead of telling someone what to do.
Yeah.
And just kind of like guiding them or assisting in what you might see from outside perspective. And yeah, I guess reasons why I love Alex. You are always just a ray of sunshine. Every single time we're around anybody or with our friends or I'm just around you, you just are so positive in every single way. You have a smile that's very infectious. And I don't think you have a bad bone in your body. I don't think you've ever seen you get mad at anybody or yell at anybody. And if you're yelling at someone or you're mad at somebody, you're usually laughing and giggling in the same exact way. So it's just nice to be in your presence because it just feels positive and it just feels like you're always trying to lift everybody else around you. And you also dress like a rock star and you look like a rock star. And it's always great to be like, this is my super fucking hot friend, Alex. She's with me. So no one stops you from going in anywhere when she walks in with you. So huge bonus to being friends with you in that sense. And yeah, and you just always make me feel amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. I
Yeah.
love you.
Yeah, I love you too. Thanks for the question. That was a great
good
question.
one.
Yeah. Obviously, you're gorgeous, right? This is a big reason why you've had so much success on OnlyFans and just throughout your fitness career. And it's an interesting question that one of our videographer came up with, and it's a question that at what age did you realize that you were gorgeous? And was it something that somebody said? Was it a way that people treated you? And then at what moment were you like, hey, you know what? I can capitalize on this. Did somebody come to you and they were like, hey, you should be this model, or hey, you should do that? Like, how did that start for you?
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
um, so when I was growing up, I was a super tomboy. I was always wearing oversized clothes. I was wearing boys' clothes. When I started to hit puberty, I was getting chubby. And I remembered one of my friends when I was like 13 was like, I'm so glad that you got chubby because now all the boys like me. And I was just like, man, I felt very rejected when I was younger and in
Yeah.
high school too. I felt like I look back on photos of myself and I'm like, I wasn't an ugly duckling. I just wasn't feeling beautiful by any means. And then when I got out of high school in like college years, I did notice I was getting attention, and I grew up with like modeling posters and stuff all over my room, like wanting to be like these beautiful models, wanting to be like Britney Spears. Gosh, I loved Britney Spears. So I was like, you know what? I really want to try to model, because that's when I stopped playing rugby. I was really into working out. I was like, I want to see if I can do fitness modeling, like use this to my advantage because I love it. I got a camera. I remember going in my backyard and I put on a bikini. I asked my mom to take pictures of me, did all my hair.
Your mom?
Yeah, I asked her to take pictures of me in a bikini in the backyard. It was super like innocent, but I was like, I'm going to try this. I'm going to
Yeah.
give this 100%, because nobody had seen me like this because I
Yeah.
was such a tomboy. But
Yeah.
I was like, I knew that I had a good body from working out,
Yeah.
and I had just kind of been hiding it because I was like just an introvert, and I didn't have a lot of confidence. And that's when I went on Model Mayhem, which it used to be like a platform where aspiring models and photographers could collaborate.
Okay.
And I met photographers, and again, like super innocent, guy that lives down the street that's also in college and like super polite and is like also really scared to take a photo,
Yeah.
like direct me, he's super scared. I'm super scared. We're both like trying to do
Yeah.
something for our first time. Neither of us have experience. So it took like a few of those. And then once I started to get those photos back and I saw all the hard work I had put into my body,
Yeah.
like on a photograph, and I was like, wow, this is me. I can do it. That's honestly where a lot of my confidence came from.
Yeah. That's so freaking cool. What a fun story. I mean, there's also just like the cuteness of you doing this Model Mayhem stuff and like meeting these like boys who like don't know. It's so funny too, because we have a lot of pretty girlfriends, right? And it's like I always find that I'm like the one taking the photos, and like it's funny because like people don't realize when you're taking photos of like beautiful women, you have to make them feel beautiful. Like,
Yeah.
you look gorgeous, you look amazing. Put your hand here, place, and then play some sexy music. Like, give them a vibe. Like, because it's true. It's like you feed off of each other when the photographer is speaking to you and when you're speaking to them.
That is so
Yeah.
true.
And if they're like a weird, awkward person, I'm sure that doesn't make you feel sexy. So how am I supposed to be this sexy goddess when like there's nothing that's like helping to unleash that within you? And so it's super cute to hear the journey that you went on throughout this process. And yeah, I'm sure some of those guys from back in the day, they probably see you now and they're like, I know that girl. I used to take photos of her. They're probably stoked
Yep.
about it. Yeah. How awesome. Cool. Okay. So I think that pretty much wraps it up for today. But what I want to do before we leave is, can you please tell everybody how they can find you, they can follow you, and they can support you through your process?
Okay.
Yeah. Speak to the camera.
So to find me, my name is Alex K. Instagram is the Alex K.
And K is K-A-Y-E.
K-A-Y.
It's K-A-Y.
Yeah.
Got it.
So
Okay.
you can find me on Instagram, TheAlexKay. Same with OnlyFans, the Alex K, TheAlexKay. Twitter is just the Alex K with just a K. But if you type it into Google, Alex K, you'll find it.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the
Thank
podcast. I've really
you.
enjoyed having you here. It's
This was
obviously great seeing you.
awesome.
This was so much fun. And I think your fans are going to love this. And I know that our friends are going to love hearing this story, because this was just so much more than what I expected. And like, even like hearing about you being a rugby player and like a lot of times when I have guests on here, you don't know how eloquent they're going to be, but you're very eloquent. And so I think the conversation and everything went in a wide road where we meandered a lot, but we were able to see the whole picture. And so thanks for being here and sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you. This was awesome.
Yeah, love you.
I love
Cheers.
you.
Cool. And that's about it.